If you look at the history of cricket, all the teams which have reached the pinnacle of world cricket have done it not just with the help of batsmen, but with an equal backing from the bowlers. In fact, I hear a lot of legends saying that it is the bowlers who win the matches. And I think largely it's been true if you look at the history. Be it the Indian spin quartet of Bedi, Venkatraghavan, Prasanna and Chandrasekhar, or be it the mighty West Indian side where Malcolm Marshall, Michael Holding, Ambrose, they used to bowl together. Or even next door in Pakistan, where you would have had Waqar Yunus and Wasim Akram bowling in tandem with each other. And no team has had perhaps a better example of this than the Australian side. All the way back in the 70s, they had a slogan which said, "Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. If Thompson don't get you, then Lilly must." The Australian team has had legendary batsmen in the form of Gilchrist, Hayden, Ponting, Waugh, everyone blazing at the top. But their dominant run in the late 90s to the mid-2010s was also backed by quality bowlers such as McGrath, Bretley, along with Shane Warne, and now all the way to Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc. And here is what Bretley had to say about this.
Some of those names that you mentioned are truly world class. You know, the Matthew Haydens, the Justin Langers, the Ricky Pontings, McGrath, Warne, Gillespie, Pontings, you know, Gilchrist. It was such a great team to be involved in. But the thing that I guess where we were different to the rest of the other playing nations at that stage, we were so tight as a group. You know, we're very, very close as a group. And that's where I reckon sport and business are very similar. Because if you can find that inner peace between, a group getting on and, backing each other's skills, because there's going to be times where bowlers fail. There'll be times where batsmen fail, like in business where, the 2IC might not be pulling his or her weight, and then someone has to step up and cover them. They might be having a bad week or a bad day in the office. It's like with sport. So the thing that we had is that we had that trust within each other, and the trust, I've never seen it as tight as what we had throughout that early 2006 sort of stranglehold that we had. So it was just a wonderful era to play in. I was so lucky.
One of the biggest reasons behind India's impressive performance in 2023 World Cup could be attributed to Shami and Bumrah duo, who managed to tame the opposition even in the most difficult of circumstances. One of the biggest reasons behind India's impressive performance in the 2023 World Cup could be attributed to the Shami and Bumrah duo, who managed to tame the opposition even in the most difficult of circumstances. Welcome to 180 Not Out. I'm sure by this time you know what the episode is all about. We talked about the evolution of batting in the previous episode and discussed whether cricket has become a batter's game. In this episode, I talked to legends of world cricket to discuss the evolution of bowling over the years.
बॉल डाल रहे, हमारा आपने डाला ऑफ स्टंप के बाहर, बैट्समैन ने लाइन को कवर करने की कोशिश की ऑफ स्टंप पे, लेकिन आपने उसका डंडा उड़ा दिया. अब वो स्विंग से जो आप चकमा देते हैं, आई थिंक उसमें जो सुकून है वो किसी चीज़ में नहीं है.
And I think, we all want to evolve, and bowlers have certainly evolved and found other ways of taking wickets and nullifying batters. But yeah, I think, you want to go out there and give your best, but you want to see a good, entertaining game, and I think that's what it's all about.
बॉलर के पास है ना, आप देखेंगे जिस तरीके से रूल आ गए हैं, वो आपके पास 2 फील्डर, 2 नए बॉल हैं, 5 फील्डर अंदर हैं. 50 ओवर की बात करेंगे. टेस्ट मैच हम टर्निंग ट्रैक पे खेलते हैं, एशेज देखेंगे वो अलग क्वालिटी है, इंग्लैंड में अलग बॉल घूमता है. उसके बाद 2020 जिस तरीके से इवॉल्व हुआ है, वो उसमें आप बॉलर को भी क्रेडिट ज़्यादा है.
You'll see bowlers come back in the next couple of years. They will up their skill. They'll up their defensive skill. How to counteract the batsman who, like a Glenn Maxwell, who's scoring 200 off 110 balls or something, whatever. You'll see in a couple of years bowlers being able to defend that better than they currently are.
Go and watch Bretley. Go and watch Makaya Intini. Go and watch Shoaib Akhtar. Go and watch Curtly Ambrose. Go and watch Malcolm Marshall. Go and watch Joe Garner. that is what is going to build your passion for fast bowling. If you love it, you watch those guys. You watch Glenn McGrath. There's so many great fast bowlers of yesteryear that showed you the structure of how to be a fast bowler.
Much has changed in cricket since 1844, when the first international cricket match was played 180 years ago. But we still have the bowlers, batters, fielders and umpires. Principally, the game retains the soul while the rules around it are changing. I will get back to the rules in a bit, but let's address the bowlers for now. Pacers and spinners continue to be the two types of bowlers there are, with further categories within them based on their style. One of the biggest changes that I have observed over the past few decades is that, for some reason, the pace seems to be on the decline. Shoaib Akhtar, Brett Lee and Sean Tate have produced some of the fastest bowling spells in the history, almost touching 100 miles per hour every time, and bowling at a speed of 160 plus. Wow. While you still see the occasional 155, 156 in a match, with the most recent example being the young pacer Mayank Yadav, who bowled at a blazing pace of 156.7 in the recent IPL. There seems to be a dearth of bowlers who can bowl consistently at that pace. Here is what Brett Lee had to speak about that.
Other than Mayank Yadav that bowled 156 Ks, over the last 20, so the batsmen are going like this in terms of their power, last 20 years. The bowling speeds are generally, other than the odd Mayank Yadav and, you know, a couple of guys that have hit 150, the bowling speeds are actually falling off. And I think it's because the bowlers these days are playing and training differently. You know, they're not trained to bowl fast anymore. There's a lot of change-ups because we're seeing, you know, T20 cricket, T10 cricket. The bowlers have to evolve. They think that, you know, not bowling pace on is the most important thing anymore. So they're not training to be quick bowlers anymore. And the theory I would do for a bowler, in order to be a bowler that can bowl over 150 Ks consistently, you know, I was lucky to do it for 20 years, you have to be a good sprinter. So if I was to train a young fast bowler, I'd take the ball out of their hand and say, righto, give me two weeks with you, purely working on your sprint training, and then we'll put the ball back in your hand. And I don't think the players are doing that.
And this is what Pakistani all-rounder Shahid Afridi had to say about this.
अब उस तरीके के फास्ट बॉलर भी नहीं है रेमन भाई, अगर बात की जाए तो उतने एग्रेसिव बॉलर्स भी नजर नहीं आते कि जो 150, 160, 155 की पेस से बॉल किए करते हो, तो फिर मजा भी आता है बॉलर बैट्समैन की आंखों में देखते हुए. वो है नहीं, वो बहुत कम बॉलर्स हैं.
Tino Best, the former West Indies fast bowler, had similar thoughts.
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. Fast bowling is not just running up and bowling. That's a medium pace. There's so many different avenues and stuff. So you got a specialist who's a T20 bowler, who's a medium pacer who bowled 135 kilometers. A guy who bowls a little back of the arm. Then you got a guy who may touch 90 now and then. But I think it has changed because of the game have evolved. You don't really find the alternate fast bowler like before. You don't find like Mitchell Stark. You had in my era, it was, we used to look up to Akhtar, Brett Lee, Shane Bond. You had myself, you had Fidel Edwards, you had Malinga, you had Mitchell Johnson who was coming in thereabout. You had Mohammed Sami from Pakistan. I think that was the back end of when Wasim and Waqar was. So you had so much, you had a plethora of fast bowlers who you looked up to. And you don't find that alternate fast bowler anymore because the game have evolved.
Generations of kids have grown up emulating the actions of Brett Lee and the celebration of Akhtar, trying to go as fast as possible. But it eventually seems to be fading out from the sport. Tino Best tells me that there is a certain passion that seems to be missing these days.
The passion for fast bowling is not there like back in the day or when it was coming through. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. That is the game. That is how it evolved. So when we do see it, we are excited. And we remember how guys used to have us on the edge of our seat. Shoaib Akhtar running in at Brian Lara, or Shoaib or Brett Lee running in at Michael Vaughan, or those battles. You still get to see them, but in very small pockets. So it's more of a batsman game. Before we used to say it's a batsman game, it's more of a batsman game now.
Another thing that seems to be slowly fading away is the art of swinging the ball. And who better to talk about why this is happening than the king of swing himself, Irfan Pathan.
Nowadays, you don't see too many swing bowlers. That has multiple factors. Obviously, the pitches, the conditions, the condition of the ball as well has changed a lot as well. But most importantly, what has changed is, if I'm a bowler, if I'm playing a T20 cricket, what I will do is I will not only work on my swing, but I will work on my Yorkers and the slow one and the variations. What happens when you work on different multiple facets of the game? Your main basic, which is important thing, sometime you loses out on that. जब आप उस पे मिस आउट कर जाते हैं, क्योंकि आपको रिस्क को घुमाते रहना है. आप अगर वेरिएशन करेंगे, रिस्क को घुमाते रहेंगे, तो वो जो आपके पास जो पहनापन रहता है, लगातार बॉल के पीछे रहना, लगातार बैक स्पिन का इस्तेमाल करना, लगातार वो पोजीशन में आके बॉल करना, क्योंकि स्विंग तभी आता है जब आपके पास एक तो रिपीटेटिव एक्शन हो और रिपीटेटिव गुड बेस के साथ रिस्क पोजीशन हो. अगर वो चेंज होता रहेगा तो जाहिर सी बात है उस पर थोड़ा बहुत तो इफेक्ट आना ही आना.
Pace has been changing in other ways. From the wobble seam, which was started by the likes of Courtney Walsh and Malcolm Marshall, and eventually popularized by Stuart Broad, all the way to the slow bouncer, which often get to see in modern day cricket. There are other innovations such as the knuckleball, which tend to deceive the batters. Perhaps one of the finest examples of these innovations was the invention of reverse swing by Pakistani bowlers. In fact, who can never forget Wasim Akram getting 2 of 2 in the 1992 World Cup final? Here is what Ross Taylor has to say about reverse swing missing the sport nowadays.
I think some of the rules around the ball, around the fields, I think it's too skewed in the batsman's favour at the moment. I think the art of reverse swing bowling has gone out of the game. With 2 new balls, I was on air commentating the New Zealand-India game, and I was on with Ravi Shastri and Simon Dooll, and we were just discussing it. Where can we make improvements? And I think we need to change it back to, even if you're going to use 2 new balls, I think we need to change it to 1 ball at either the 35th or the 40th over, just to bring the art of reverse swing bowling into it and make that ball a lot softer than it is, just to make it harder for the batters to just hit sixes at will. I'm sure the fans love it, but I'm sure if I'm a fast bowler growing up now, I don't think I want to play one-day cricket. But I think we need to bring it in there. The art of reverse swing bowling is lost at the moment, I feel, but hopefully we can bring it back, and they can make a few small, changes to make the game even better.
These changes are not just coming to pace bowling, but also to spin. Spinners today have evolved quite a bit from the times of the spin quadrante that I talked about earlier. Spin bowlers have been introducing variations of their own ever since the start of the sport. 1900s was the time when googly was invented to trick the batters. Then came a large number of other innovations, including the subcontinent's own Dusra, a delivery perfected by Saqlain Mushtaq and later mastered by the king of spin, Mutaiya Muralidharan, and our own Harbhajan Singh. For a brief period, spin bowling saw a variation called mystery spin, which became an integral part of Ajanta Mendes' meteoric rise and later the decline. Who can ever forget the Asia Cup when he destroyed the Indian batting? Since this is an episode about bowling, I actually had detailed conversation about various aspects of the art with Bhajjipa, Harbhajan Singh, a man who has taken over 700 international wickets for India. First, listen to him talking about the evolution of spin bowling and a recent change that has been bothering him.
I believe spin bowling में एक जो सबसे बड़ा बदलाव ये आया है कि with DRS. Now everyone is bowling टू द स्टम्प, मतलब 3 विकेटों के बीच में बॉल रखते हैं और ज़्यादा स्पिन कराने की कोशिश नहीं करते हैं। तो जो कभी कभार एडवांटेज भी हो सकता है और डिसएडवांटेज भी हो सकता है। जहाँ तो आपको थोड़ी मदद मिल रही है पिच से, वहाँ तो बहुत बड़ा एडवांटेज है, बट जहाँ आपको पिच से मदद नहीं है, वहाँ आपको अपनी कला से आउट करना है। सो देन अगर आपको फिर अपनी लाइन चेंज करनी होगी, बाहर ड्राइव करवाना है, लेंथ थोड़ा सा खींचना है, वो सब आपको करने आना चाहिए। मुझे लगता है कि हाँ, वेरिएशन तो स्पिनर के पास अगर वेरिएशन नहीं है तो फिर स्पिनर किसी काम का नहीं है। तो यू हैव टू हैव वेरिएशन, नॉट नेसेसरली यू हैव टू हैव डिफरेंट बॉल्स, यू नो, एक बॉल अंदर की तरफ स्पिन हो, एक बार नहीं। आपके पास लूप जो है हर बॉल में डिफरेंट होना चाहिए। आपके पास स्लो करने का तजुर्बा होना चाहिए, कैसे गेम स्लो किया जाता है, कैसे थोड़ा सा एयर में तेज़ करते हुए भी लूप कम ना हो, वो आपको आना चाहिए। बैट्समैन को खिलाना आना चाहिए। स्पिनर वही है जिसको बैट्समैन को खिलाए कि मैं इधर बॉल डालूंगा, बैट्समैन ऐसे खेलेगा, बॉल इस तरफ जाएगा। तो ये जो प्लान है ना, ये स्पिनर को मेरे ख्याल पे करना जरूरी है। स्पिन बॉलिंग पहले मुझे लगता था कि जो स्पिन सारे स्पिनर स्पिन करवाने देते थे, और आज भी आर्ट वही है। स्पिनर किस लिए बोलते हैं कि बॉल को घुमाना है। आज पर ये हो गया कि बॉल को घुमाना नहीं है, जितना सीधा रखो, बट उस सीधे में आप बच जाओगे, बट शायद विकेट नहीं ले पाओगे, बट स्पिन कराओगे तो बहुत विकेट ले पाओगे।
While we are on the topic of spin, I also want to share the story of someone who wanted to become a fast bowler and idolized the likes of Wasim Akram growing up, but ended up becoming a well-known spinner for England. I am talking about Monty Panesar. Listen to him recounting his early days and how he became a spinner.
जब मैं 15 साल का था, मैं वसीम अकरम जैसे बनना चाहता था बॉलर, बट मेरी फास्ट बॉलिंग में इतनी तेज़ गेंदबाजी नहीं कर पाया। जब फिर हमारे कोच थे पॉल टेलर, जो नॉर्थहैम्पटन के लेफ्ट आर्म सीमर, एक टेस्ट मैच खेला इंडिया के ख़िलाफ़ 1991 में, वो हमारे कोच थे। वो कह रहे थे मुझको, मोंटी आपकी उंगलियां काफ़ी लंबी है और शोल्डर्स भी काफ़ी अभी ब्रॉड है, सो आप ऐसी कोशिश करो मे बी स्पिन बॉल डालने, बिकॉज आप फास्ट बॉलिंग में आपकी पेस इतनी है नहीं, एंड वो नेचुरली स्नैप होता है क्रीज में फास्ट बॉलर का, वो मेरे नेचुरल नहीं था। सो मैं जैसे फर्स्ट चेंज बॉलर ऐसे था बॉलर, सो मैं फिर बॉल डाली इंडोर नेट्स में, एंड वो काफ़ी घूमी बॉल। वो कहता है नेक्स्ट गेम आप ऐसे ही स्पिन डालो। सो जब डाली, फिर वुस्टरशायर अंडर 15 के साथ हम खेले, रॉयल ग्रामर स्कूल, मेरे माम डैड लेके गए मुझको, एंड वो गेम में 7 for 35 मैंने पहली गेम में ली। वो कह रहे थे स्पिन बॉलिंग ही डालो, बिकॉज जो मेरा क्लब था लूटन टाउन इंडियंस, वो चाहते थे एक क्रिकेटर इंग्लैंड खेलना चाहिए, एंड लकीली मैं था वो इंग्लैंड में खेला।
Much has changed in bowling over the years, primarily due to the increase in popularity of T20 cricket. Thanks partly due to the rise of the leagues like the IPL and Big Bash. Do make sure to check out the episode number 2, where we spoke about the rise of leagues in case you missed out. The details are in the show notes. And here is Ashok Dinda, a man who was a key player in the Kolkata side, on the first night of IPL back in 2008, sharing his insights on how the game has changed for bowlers between then and now.
2008 का IPL देखिएगा, वहाँ पर आपका विनिंग स्कोर था 170, 155। अभी 200 प्लस करना ही पड़ेगा, अदरवाइज आप जीत नहीं पाओगे। तो कैलकुलेशन ऐसे हो गया ना कि ईच एंड एवरी ओवर पावर प्ले में क्या बॉलिंग करना है, डेथ ओवर में क्या बॉलिंग करना है, मिडिल ओवर में कैसे बॉलिंग करना है। तो ये सब चीज़ खुद को भी जैसे खुद भी डेवलप करना पड़ेगा, और टीम के जो कोचेस है, टीम का जो मैनेजमेंट है, उन लोगों से भी बात करके काफ़ी कुछ सीखने को मिलता है। एंड ऑब्वियसली अभी जब भी बॉलिंग मीटिंग होता था हमारा, वो सारे लेजेंड वहाँ पर एक रूम पे बॉलिंग डिस्कस करते थे, वहाँ से भी आप बहुत कुछ डेवलप कर सकते हो। तो बहुत कुछ बैटर्स के बारे में, अपोजिशन बैटर्स के बारे में, वीक पॉइंट, स्ट्रॉन्ग एरिया, अनकंफर्टेबल, कहाँ पर उनको बॉलिंग करने से विकेट मिलेगा, ये सब टेक्नोलॉजी भी बहुत आ गया। तो ईच एंड एवरी प्लेयर को ऊपर कैमरा लगा हुआ है कि उसने कहाँ पर उनका अनकंफर्टेबल है, कहाँ पर स्ट्रॉन्ग जोन है, वो मैच के पहले दिखा देते हैं, उसी हिसाब से प्रैक्टिस करते हैं। तो मैच में उसको यूटिलाइज करना, दैट इज डिफरेंट।
Continuing on the same theme where Dinda left us with, I spoke to Harbhajan Singh on the use of technology in cricket. Given that there is so much data involved in the game right now, all the way from team selection to shot selection, how does he see this being used in bowling? Does this data on a batter help a bowler prepare better? Or should a bowler continue to rely on instincts rather than the data? Here is what Turbinator had to tell me.
Data driven बहुत कुछ हो गया है, and I'm not against it, but I used to follow only my gut and also see उतना ही वीडियो की जितना, क्योंकि जो हो चुका है ना पीछे हुआ। उस दिन क्या हुआ अब कोई अगर प्राइम एग्जांपल मुझे देनी हो कि कोई कहते कि यार ये ऑफ स्पिनर को अच्छा नहीं खेलता, ये कवर ड्राइव मारने जाता तो ये आउट हो जाता है, या 4 बार मैंने केविन पीटरसन को आउट किया, पर वो 4 बार देखिए कैसे आउट हुआ। अगर वो बाउंड्री लाइन पे आउट हुआ तो मैंने नहीं आउट किया, क्योंकि मैंने वो प्रेशर क्रिएट किया। उसके पहले 3 बॉल कैसे डाले थे वो डेटा है असली। वो आउट होने का तरीका जो है उसका, वो तो उसने ढूंढा है। कभी स्वीप मारते हुए आउट हुआ, कभी रिवर्स स्वीप मारते हुए आउट हुआ, तो उसका तरीका जो है आउट होने का वो सेम नहीं था। अगर सेम तरीका हो तो फिर टेक्निकल फॉल्ट है। तो वो डेटा के साथ आप ड्रिवन तो हो, बट उतना ना हो जाओ कि आप अपनी गट और उसको छोड़ दीजिए कि नहीं यार ये ऐसे नहीं कि मैंने इसको आउट किया तो इसको ले, ऐसे नहीं होता। जो पीछे हो चुका वो हो चुका। आज की बात जो है वो अलग होगी। सो यू नो इफ दैट वाज द केस, आई फील लैपटॉप का नाम होता सर डॉन ब्रैडमैन, है ना, तो कोई लैपटॉप तो जाके ग्राउंड पे खेलता नहीं है।
Sometimes, bowling is also about the amount of time that the bowlers have at hand. While Test cricket offers the bowlers a sufficient breathing space to take a break if one of their spell isn't going as well, and then make a comeback later, limited overs cricket, and particularly T20 cricket matches, make it very difficult for the bowler as he has only 4 overs at hand. Bangladeshi cricketer Abdur Razak made a very interesting observation about this.
In test cricket, you have unlimited time. Like not unlimited, you have to do it in 5 days time. But yeah, you have lots of time. But when we play one day, still you got 10 overs. You can think properly. Even sometimes if you miss in the ground, you can rethink and you can like repair your innings. But in T20, there is no way to repair yourself in the ground. Like, you know, you have to be smart enough to think like that, which way you will gonna go, and you have to, you need to get some like options in your mind whenever you are going to bowl in a T20 game.
Another aspect of bowling that has taken a hit of late is death bowling. In my view, as a fan, death bowling often seems to be the hardest part of the game. Captains usually tend to reserve their best bowlers for these last overs. In fact, now we see death bowling specialists coming into play. 19th over and the 20th over in a T20 match are extremely critical for the bowling team to ensure that they do not give away too much. However, in recent times, batters seems to be getting increasingly confident about these final overs, and we often see the most runs coming in these overs. Here is what Mitch McLenaghan, former New Zealand fast bowler, has to say on this.
I don't believe that players, even 6-7 years ago, definitely 10 years ago, felt like that they could hit 12 off the last over. Now, if you're in a position and you're batting 12 off the last over, you should win 80% of the time. 50-50 if it's 14-15 and a couple of good balls, but that's where the game changed. The belief of the batsman, the ability to train, hitting Yorkers more, good resources. If you're a young cricketer at home, I'm sure you know the flinger that the guys sling with. I think that's had a really big impact on the game. If you were trying to bat and get better at death bowling and hitting Yorkers, it was always about waiting. Your bowlers had to try and bowl them, right? And if your bowlers weren't good enough or they weren't bowling, you didn't get practice. It was all bowling machine if you could, but it's not relative. As soon as they brought the slinger into the game, the last 4 or 5 years, I think we've just seen guys hitting the ball cleanly at the end go through the roof. So it's been partly the tools that they have at training.
Another interesting conversation that I've had with multiple legends and experts of the sport has been centered around how the conversation in bowling today has moved from economy rate to strike rate. With batting becoming more and more aggressive, the economy rates of bowlers has taken a major hit. Harbhajan Singh has an interesting point here, where he tells that if a player is focused on taking a wicket, the economy corrects itself on its own. Listen to him.
I believe that कि कोई बॉलर जो कहे कि मैं रन रोक लूँगा, मैं वो रन नहीं रोक सकता, चाहे वो लतिफ मिलेगा, उनसे बेहतर बॉलर नहीं हुआ है कोई वर्ल्ड T20 क्रिकेट में। जसप्रीत बुमराह, आप देखें उनकी बात अगर आज मॉडर्न डेज में करें, तो जब आप विकेट लेते हो ना, तभी ब्रेक लगती है। तो विकेट लेने के लिए अच्छी बॉलिंग करनी ज़रूरी है। वो विकेट लेने के लिए बॉल को स्किल के साथ आप विकेट ले सकते हो, ये नहीं कि फ्लूक के साथ कि आपने एक विकेट ले ली कि फुल टॉस बॉल ऊपर चलेगी, आउट हो गया, बट वो हर बार नहीं होगा। वो फुल टॉस बॉल जो वो छक्के के लिए ज़्यादा जाएगी। तो इसलिए इकोनॉमी रेट तभी आपकी ठीक होगी जब आप विकेट लेने के लिए देखोगे। आप विकेट लेने के लिए देखोगे तो आप अपना भी काम कर रहे हो, टीम को भी आगे बढ़ा रहे हो। सो दैट्स व्हाट आई थिंक शुड बी द माइंडसेट और व्हेनेवर आई हैव प्लेड एनी फॉर्मेट विद T20, ODIs और टेस्ट क्रिकेट, I've looked to take wicket. मैंने कोशिश ये होती है कि विकेट कैसे, उस प्रोसेस में हो सकता है आप रन ज़्यादा कभी कभार चल जाए, 10 रन 12 रन, बट if you end up taking those 2 wickets, 3 wickets or 1 important wicket, you kind of done your job. So that should be the mindset. और बहुत बार जब वो mindset नहीं होता तो बिना कुछ किए मार पड़ जाती है, कुछ करना नहीं पड़ता, सिर्फ ये जिस दिन ठीक नहीं चलता उस दिन मार पड़ती है।
Former West Indian fast bowler Jerome Taylor also agrees.
Yeah, the runs there, the economy rate, it goes up. To be honest with you, I could remember started out as a youngster playing the game. You would bowl 10 overs for 30 odd, 40 odd runs and you think, okay, that's good bowling. But today, you're looking at 10 for 100 and something runs. People are really getting at the ball these days.
During my conversation with legends of world cricket, one theme that was consistent from players across the world was the fact that the rules somehow don't favor the bowlers anymore. More so in T20 cricket than in other formats. First, listen to Harbhajan Singh weigh in on this.
जो वनडे क्रिकेट में ये रूल चेंज हुआ कि 2 बॉलें लगाना और एक फील्डर एक्स्ट्रा अंदर रहना 40 ओवर तक, वो जहां आपको पहले 1 रन मिलता था ना, अब वहाँ चौका मिलता। बॉलर के पास मार्जिन ऑफ एरर बहुत कम हो गया, थोड़ा बॉल टूटा हुआ कोई कट मार देता है, नहीं तो फिर मिड ऑफ ऊपर है तो उसके ऊपर से खेल देता है। सो वो एडवांटेज जो था वो पहले खिलाड़ी में नहीं मिला। अगर वो एडवांटेज होता वीरू बहुत तोड़ता था। वीरू वैसे ही बहुत तोड़ता था क्योंकि वीरू फील्ड को बहुत अच्छा खेलता था। वीरू पाजी है, मतलब वो शायद उनको वो उस चीज़ का डिसएडवांटेज था, जहाँ उनको वो 1 रन मिलता था ना, वहाँ उनको चौके मिलते। तो वहीं उनके जो अगर स्कोर की अगर नज़र मारें तो 5-5 हज़ार रन जो है, तो 5-5 हज़ार रन बढ़वा दो उनके, क्योंकि बहुत वनडे खेलने हैं दोनों ने और बहुत बड़े प्लेयर थे। आई थिंक ये जो नया रूल है, हैविंग 5 फील्डर इन द सर्कल फॉर 40 ओवर्स, दैट्स अ मैसिव एडवांटेज। एंड 2 बॉल न्यू, जो नया बॉल है, रिवर्स स्विंग नहीं होगी तो फिर
थोड़ा ज़्यादा ट्यून्ड है,
बिल्कुल, और बल्लेबाज को तो एडवांटेज है।
Former West Indies fast bowler Tino Best had this to tell me about the rules and particularly the field placement during the power play overs.
What I would love to see is in the power play, the bowlers can get 1 more guy out the circle. I think that would be fair. I think 2 guys out is too harsh on the bowlers. I think you need 3 guys out the circle. I think the runs are still going to be scored. I mean, the guys are very skillful. But I think that with 3 guys out the circle, it makes it evens in those opening overs, where the batsman have to be a little bit more skillful in trying to execute what he wants to do. But 2 fielders out for fast bowling, high 80s, maybe 90 miles an hour, is rough. That's the only thing I would say that the ICC, anyone that running the cricket boards have to look at, like, come on, let's hear the bowler something. I mean, give us in the back end overs, you get the 5 out. But in the opening overs, I think just for the fans and the batsmen, I think they're going to be a little bit more considerate and give us at least one more out. We just need one guy out. All the great bowlers, me and Bradley, we talk about this at SAR, we talk about this up in Qatar, or they just say we need one guy out. We need to have a petition to say we need one guy out. So we'll have 3 out the circle for the opening overs.
While talking to West Indian legend Jerome Taylor, he actually pointed out something similar.
If you look at the disadvantages of what the bowlers have to go through. Now, you're playing in a power play where people is coming after you. You're only allowed 2 fielders outside of the circle. That's harsh, I would say. You understand? And then it's even harder for you to protect one side with 2 fielders outside of the circle. So you can just imagine when you only have 2 players out and batters are looking to capitalize on the power play, they're coming after you. So yes, it is an advantage to the batters, you know.
In my conversation with Gautam Gambhir, a mainstay of Indian batting for over a decade, this is what he says about the rules of modern cricket are now favoring batting side more than the bowling side.
2 new balls in one-day cricket is probably the worst thing that can happen to one-day cricket. It's probably the worst thing because imagine how many finger spinners play one-day cricket. There is Nathan Lyon, who's got 400 test wickets. There is Ravichandran Ashwin, who's got 400 wickets, and they're not part of their one-day team. And the only reason is because there is nothing for a finger spin. Imagine someone who's taken 400 test wickets will not play one-day cricket is only because they don't become a wicket-taking option, or they end up becoming a defensive option. So that is something which has reverse swing. Reverse swing has gone out of the game completely. Why I want to see reverse swing. I want to see batters getting challenged. Someone who's bowling 150 and reversing the ball is always a challenge. So for me, I think one rule that needs to change as soon as possible is getting rid of 2 new balls and have just 1.
Gambhir goes on to tell me that the role of the bowling is extremely important and perhaps cricket administrators should look beyond the Kookaburra ball. He even proposes an interesting idea of different countries using different ball manufacturers.
If a manufacturer cannot produce a ball which cannot last for 50 overs, might as well change the manufacturer. There's nothing wrong in changing the manufacturer. What is the compulsion in only using Kookaburra? If Kookaburra cannot manufacture a ball that can stay for 50 overs, might as well have, there is Duke, there is SG, there are so many other options.
Could be explored.
100%. Absolutely. See, one good thing that has happened is that there was pink ball test cricket, which is very, very exciting that test cricket has gone to that stage where you can play test cricket under lights as well. So might as well have a new ball manufacturer as well. And one more thing that needs to change is that every country should decide what ball they need to play with. It cannot be mandatory that Kookaburra will be in all white ball cricket, it is Kookaburra. No. If BCCI wants to play with SG, they should have all the right to do it. If England wants to play with Duke, they have all the right to do it. It is the home board that should decide what ball and what manufacturer they want to use in their home conditions.
It's becoming apparent that bowling is getting tougher as batting gets more aggressive. By this point, it is clear that it is everything from the new age batting mindset to the rules, especially in T20, have quite an adverse impact on the bowling side. With the benefit of this hindsight, I decided to ask a question to some of the bowlers I talked to. If time travel were possible and they could go back to their training days, would they still choose to be a bowler or will they now choose to be a batter? Here is what they had to say. First, listen to Christopher Mofu from Zimbabwe.
Sometimes I always say, maybe I chose the wrong side of the coin. I wouldn't say I would change it. I think being a bowler now, it just tests your character. Once you come on top, I think you become the hero with the way the batters are coming after the bowler. So it's one of those, it's like chase. You need to be a little bit ahead of what they are thinking as batters, because that's something that I've been trying, for the past few years playing this league. You always, when you come to this tournament, you make sure that you're not doing the same thing that you did last season. You want to get better. I was just talking the other day, I had a question with one of the commentators. They say, you changed quite a few things. And I said, because I know that the batters, they're expecting me to do this. So I just wanted to be a little bit ahead of what they have.
And this is what our own Munaf Patel had to say.
पूछने का सवाल ही नहीं है सर, ऑटोमेटिक बैट्समैन ही बनते और कुछ नहीं करना है, आओ मारो और जाओ.
Here is Irfan Pathan, who tells me that regardless of the situation today, he would still like to be a bowler.
It had pain, a lot of fractures. I had fractures from bottom to top. I had first hip fracture. I had 5 fractures in my lower back. I had many hamstring issues. I had knee fractures, patella issues, meniscus issue, arthritis, many other fractures as well, side strain, hamstring strain. So many things. But I would any day choose bowling because I just love it. It's my love.
And this is what Sri Lankan legend Isru Udana had to say.
No, to be honest, I'm really happy with my as a bowler. But yeah, I can say that because I'm agree with you when it comes to the rules and everything. All are coming against bowlers. So, but still, we have to take that as a challenge. So we can't control the stuff we cannot control. So you have to take the chance.
Picking up from the conversation that I had in previous episode, which was all about batting, I sought the views of a number of players about whether they see cricket as a game that has become more batter dominated. I asked a similar question to Harbhajan Singh, who gave me a very balanced insight on this, providing a bowler's point of view as well as adding a detailed Indian context to it.
एडवांटेज देखो हमेशा इंडियन टीम में अगर आप खेलते हो तो बैट्समैन को तो हमेशा वो ज़्यादा महत्वता मिलती है. अगर आप 5 विकेट लोगे वनडे क्रिकेट में और किसी ने 100 रन बनाया है तो 100 रन वाले को मैन ऑफ द मैच मिलता है, जो कि मुझे लगता है कि 5 विकेट लेना वनडे क्रिकेट में ज़्यादा मुश्किल है. और इवन आई फील कि वो देखना चाहिए कि कंट्रीब्यूशन कैसे और कब आया है, किस सिनेरियोज़ में आया है. तो वो थोड़ा तो बल्लेबाजों को एडवांटेज शुरू से मिलता है और आज भी मिल रहा है. जो शमी है आज की डेट में, जो आज की डेट में शमी है, जो आज की डेट में जसप्रीत बुमराह है, दे नो लेस देन विराट कोहली. इन माय व्यू आई थिंक they are doing as much as Virat Kohli is doing for the team. And it's not that Virat is saying कि यार आप मेरे को क्यों बढ़ावा दे रहे हो. Yes, लोगों को विराट पसंद है क्योंकि वो बल्लेबाज है. But whereas शमी और बुमराह इन मेरी नज़र, अगर मैं थोड़ी बहुत क्रिकेट समझता हूँ, they are as big as Virat Kohli is.
All of this now brings us to the concluding question. Is all hope lost for the bowlers in a game that is becoming increasingly batter dominated? Well, not all hope is lost. I am an eternal optimist, and I would like to conclude this episode by sharing this conversation I had with Mitch McClanagan, who tells me that there is still a lot out there for bowlers who have a very important role to play and make a big impact. Listen to him.
The key to all the youngsters out there is to be a spinning batter. A batter who can bowl a little bit of spin. That's what you want to do. That seems to be the best way to go about it now. Look, it's definitely as a bowler, it's a challenge. It really is a challenge, but it's an exciting one. If you look at all the tournaments around the world, this one included, I feel in pool play, I think it's about the batters winning games. The batters can get the runs, they play with some freedom, and batters get you to finals. And when it comes down to the finals, it's bowlers who win the finals. So there is an element for bowlers to still be a part of the game and have a big impact. And we've seen the likes of Bumrah and Malinga being big features in finals games. And that's the guy you want to be. You want to win a final for your team. So there's still hope for bowlers out there. You can still have a big impact on the game.
You have heard both the sides. In previous episode, it was all about the batters, and in this, we spoke about the other side, that is bowling. Now that you've heard both the sides, make sure you log on to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. While you follow 180 Not Out on these platforms, make sure you give us your views and comments about the battle between batting and bowling. I am Raman Raheja, and I'll be back next Monday with another episode of 180 Not Out.
From humble beginnings, it started as a game. A battle ball, a field, and players with no fame. But little did they know, cricket would soon ignite a passion that would last through day and night. 180 not out. We're going strong. 180 not